The initial idea of writing a doctoral research popped up while I was doing my graduate studies from the ISS Term 3 courses on international financial reform, where the late Carl Jensen was course leader. For this course, I did a short-term paper, eventually leaving a number of questions unanswered. This gave me an opportunity to write my doctoral research. FDI is widely associated with potential spillover benefits leading to productivity gains in host countries. The argument is that when foreign firms invest in a host country, they not only invest capital, they often also transfer proprietary knowledge to their subsidiaries, with the expectation that host country firms would be able to benefit from this knowledge transfer. Many developing countries introduced policies that encourage FDI by offering a range of incentives. This led to a substantial increase in FDI inflow into host countries, followed by a mushrooming of empirical studies seeking to investigate spillover effects. I started this doctoral research systematically reviewing an impressive number of empirical studies seeking the intra-industry spillover from FDI carried out in developing countries up to September 2013. This review provides 1,545 estimates of spillover parameters from 74 studies conducted by 96 researchers, including who are sitting in this room. This review showed that despite the huge literature concerned in investigating the productivity spillover effects and the policy relevance in promoting FDI, findings in the reported empirical studies are not conclusive. Theoretically, the literature recognized that the presence of FDI may positively affect the productivity of local firms as it results in skilled labor turnovers. It demonstrates the feasibility of new technologies and exerts competitive pressure to improve local efficiency. These are the three fundamental transmission channels of intra-industry spillover, productive spillover. However, the systematic review further showed that these spillovers channels are not explicitly showed in the reported empirical studies. Each of the existing studies provided a partial picture focusing on one aspect of the spillover effect. This is an important omission also since the sign, size, and significance of spillover effects can vary according to the transmission channels. Set against this background, two overarching objectives of the thesis emerged. The first general objective of the thesis is to investigate whether FDI actually generates spillover in the context of developing countries. To approach this objective, two empirical chapters use meta-analysis to combine, summarize, and investigate the reported estimates of spillover parameters. The second general objective is to provide a more complete description of the intra-industry spillover effects through which they are expected to take place. Two other empirical chapters approach this objective by using firm-level quantitative and qualitative data from industries in Sub-Saharan Africa. For the first general objective, the thesis draws on data collected from 69 available primary empirical studies, comprising 1,450 observations for the period 1986-2013 for 31 developing countries. For the second general objective, the quantitative data were obtained from the World Bank's enterprise surveys. Based on data availability, we constructed a firm-level panel data set from 8 Sub-Saharan African countries spanning the period 2006-2014. The qualitative data were obtained via fieldwork in Uganda, that is, one of the 8 Sub-Saharan African countries where a panel data set was already available. This data was mainly collected from on-site semi-structured interviews with Ugandan and foreign firms in 2015. This takes me to the results. Chapter 3 investigated the issue of publication bias and finds that the reported FDI productivity spillover effects do indeed suffer from significant and meaningful publication bias. This implies that the empirical effect size appears substantially much larger than the actual spillovers. This chapter adds that the publication bias is largely due to favorable treatment by researchers of the primary studies for positive and statistically significant findings rather than by the preference of journal reviewers and editors. The chapter concludes that this bias first appeared in the literature temporarily in 2013 and it has been permanently established since 2005. Beyond the issue of publication bias, I was interested in the underlying magnitude and size of spillover effect. The question is how I can best estimate the magnitude of the genuine spillover effect when the literature contains evidence of substantial publication bias. This takes me to Chapter 4 to explore this and other related questions. After making the case for publication bias, Chapter 4 meta-analyzes the heterogeneity of productivity spillovers and the genuine underlying empirical effect. In combination with model misspecification of the primary studies, the publication bias identified in Chapter 3 overstates the genuine underlying meta-effect, but the meta-effect remains statistically significant. In this context, the weighted uncorrected average reported estimate exaggerated the genuine underlying meta-effect by about 44%. Despite the robust positive underlying spillover effect, there is also substantial heterogeneity in the reported estimates. The result emphasizes that spillovers and their sign largely depend systematically on two major sources of heterogeneity, that is, specification choices and publication bias, but is also influenced by estimation choices and data characteristics. Furthermore, this chapter revisited an important issue of publication bias, that is, whether publication bias could be the result of best practice choices regarding research design and methods. Therefore, I ask the question, could it be that studies that comply with best practice characteristics have a stronger publication bias? I found that the best practice approach does not appear to be causing the publication bias. Finally, I knew that the selection of studies in previous meta-analysis has had an impact on the findings and led to misleading conclusions. This chapter concludes by noting the relevance of separating the different transmission channels under which spillover expected to emerge. This takes me to Chapter 5 to demonstrate a fuller and more nuanced picture of spillover effect through investigating the empirically underexplored but theoretically well-established transmission channels. Chapter 5 focuses on demonstrating a more nuanced approach to evaluating the potential productivity spillovers, as I am able to disentangle which spillover transmission effects work and under what particular circumstances. The main findings are fourfold. First, imitation-determined spillover is found to be absorbed by all group of firms except by low technology firms. Second, competition-determined spillovers is absorbed by local firms with high observative capacity, and its market-losing consequence declined with geographic proximity to foreign counterparts. Third, labor mobility-determined spillover is utilized only by firms in the low technology group. Fourth, majority foreign-owned firms within the host economies enhanced the knowledge spillovers, whereas minority foreign-owned firms stimulated the allocative efficiency spillover. Furthermore, I found that the magnitude of the imitation effect is reduced and the gains from the movement of workers vanish altogether with exports. Analysis of the nonlinear spillover effects points to declining or vanishing spillover benefits after an increase in FDI penetration goes beyond a certain point. Nevertheless, I found that the approach in Chapter 5 alone does not provide a complete description of spillover effects. This takes me to Chapter 6 to complement and add to the empirical evidence provided in Chapter 5. Chapter 6 gave somewhat a deeper examination of each type of spillover transmission channels through describing the working of the channels as mainly set out in Chapter 2. Chapter 6 shows that long-term pecuniary spillover effects are predominantly stimulated via the competition channel, whereas both short-term and long-term technological spillover effects occur through the imitation and the movement of workers channel. These channels, however, are not only less prevalent, but also appear to be constrained by the presence of local competition. The chapter concludes that an empirical inquiry into spillovers impacts is a challenging research topic, as mainly both negative and positive spillover effects emerged simultaneously. To conclude, the findings of this thesis showed that the results, although in line with theory, yield different results to the existing empirical literature on FDI spillover in developing countries. As in the cover picture of this thesis, the findings suggest that gauging FDI-induced spillover is both a complicated process and a challenging issue. Each spillover transmission channel needs to be identified and delineated clearly, and the effects of each of the channels need careful and separate investigation before any meaningful and robust conclusion can be reached. Importantly, the overall findings of the thesis lead to the conclusion that the reality of FDI spillover effect supports theories that predict significant positive productivity benefits. The thesis illustrates that it is important to take factors that generate and help to internalize spillover into account when designing FDI policies. Thank you.